Crystal was last seen on the afternoon of July 27, 2002, on her way to see her son. She often rode her bike on the Confederation Trail in Charlottetown. When she did not arrive home, police were notified, and Crystal's bruised and beaten body was discovered the next day.
All right, my name is Erica Dixon, and I'm president of the Surrey chapter of SAVE. And today our group has put on the Silent Witness presentation, which is taking the silhouettes and stories of 12 women across PEI that have been murdered. Because if you educate people early, they really are, I guess, more informed about it later on. They're less likely to be abused or abusers if they know the stories of these people and see the end of the road so they know not to be in it.
The behaviors that you would see would be making them the brunt of a practical joke, swearing or using profanity, insulting, dominating their time and who she or he associates with, constantly being critical, putting them down in public, spreading rumors, providing an uncomfortable environment, limiting their resources and finances, threats of physical abuse. They are all signs of domestic abuse. The PEI Union Public Sector Employees Women's Committee introduced this project in PEI in 2004. They researched the statistics of PEI women murdered in acts of domestic violence. The Silent Witness Project has been introduced in every province in Canada and most countries around the world. Each silhouette is treated as a sacred memorial and handled with utmost respect. The silhouettes are painted red to represent the blood that was spilled, and they're life-size to represent the space that these ladies occupied while they were living here on Earth.
I actually remember the day that this specific woman was murdered, because I remember coming down the stairs and I remember seeing my mother crying, and I myself didn't understand what was going on because I was so young. But it really, it hurt me because I saw my mother so upset. And that kind of made, whenever I found out that the SAVE program was going on here at the school, I really wanted to be a part of it, just to make sure that no one else had to feel the way that I saw my mother feel, because she was so heartbroken about it.
This presentation is proof that we all need to work together to help end violence in relationships. All relationships of all kinds. Every time we have contact with someone on a regular basis, we form a relationship with that person. I'd really like you to remember that today.
Back in the day, we used to always say that what was happening in your life at home was your own business. You, the neighbors, that's their business. But what we've come to learn is that family violence is and should be everyone's business. They can work beside you, they can belong to your church, be a family member or a friend. They can be lawyers, they can be middle and upper income men, women, and children. Anyone can become a victim of family domestic violence. Our sixth silhouette is dedicated to Shirley Ann Duguay, who lived in Richmond. Shirley Ann was born on November 11, 1962. She went missing from her home in Richmond on October 3, 1994. Her battered and beaten body was found in a shallow grave 7 months later with her hands tied behind her back. In 1992, while she was living in Ontario, she had been the victim of domestic violence by her common-law husband, when in a letter he threatened to kill her, their children, and himself. She decided to move her family to come home to PEI, seeking safety and family support. He later followed her here, and when she would not reconcile with him, he murdered her. After many months, he was charged and convicted of second-degree murder and sentenced to 18 years in prison. Shirley loved to play with her daughter's hair, experiment with makeup, and go for drives. She was a loving mother of 5 children: David, Shelley, Waylon, Jimmy, and Jason. Shirley Ann Duguay, a petite, fun-loving young mother, had experienced years of violence at the hands of her common-law husband. At the time of her death, Shirley was 32 years old. These silent witnesses have taught us Home is not a safe haven. Women will be abused on average 30 times before they contact the police for the first time. 62% of murdered women are victims of domestic violence. Family violence happens in rural areas, small towns, small provinces, and big cities. Anyone can be a victim. Homes with firearms can be deadly. Ending a relationship does not necessarily end the risk of violence. Women leaving violent relationships are often stalked and harassed. Marital status can be a factor. Drugs and alcohol will escalate the violence. And many perpetrators do not take responsibility for their actions and typically will always blame the victims.
My name is Quinn Davies and I'm Coordinator Outreach for PEI Family Violence Prevention for the eastern part of the island. And our program for prevention here in the east is SAVE, Students Against Violence Everywhere. And today the efforts of the kids giving messages to each other about violence prevention as well was well demonstrated with their invitation to the Silent Witness program. And the efforts they make are important because they share information amongst themselves that will reduce violence in our communities.